All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon. I know we've got people joining us from all over the world, so we're very thankful that you're here with us today. I know that everyone's crazy busy this time of year, so the fact that so many of you are here means really that there's a lot of interest in this topic. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Véronique Froment, and I am Vice President of Strategic Accounts here at Bubble Agency. For the last 25 plus years, I've been managing global PR campaigns for some of the technology industry's leading brands. So here we are today. Generative AI is changing how people find information and make decisions. And to be honest, there's been a lot of noise without too much clarity. So over the next 45 minutes, our goal together is to cut through some of that noise and talk about what it actually means for PR, for marketing teams, and really essentially anybody who's responsible for brand visibility. So to help us do that today, we've enlisted the help of two amazing experts on the topic. So let me introduce you to my co-hosts. First up is Simon Douglas.
Hi, everyone.
And Simon is the founder of Curated. Before that, he was at Google. So he's really someone who's been deep into the world of search, content, and how AI, and now AI visibility for over 20 years. Simon works with all sorts of brands from B2B and B2C in health and tech and e-commerce, you name it. His job is really to help them stay visible at a time when traditional search is going away as we knew it, and AI is becoming the new way that people are discovering and trusting information. And I have to say, having worked with Simon over the last few months, I love the way that he's really keeping on top of what's changing on AI search and readiness. And he's really the one to go to when it comes to showing teams how tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity and all the others decide which brands they're going to surface. And then alongside Simon is Tom Hastings.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here.
Tom is the founder of Beta Shift, and his job is really focused on helping brands and marketing teams deal with the real impact that AI is having on our work. So whether that's helping them to be more creative or make better decisions, or as we're discussing this morning, how we can properly show up in AI-driven searches. Before he started Beta Shift, Tom spent years as a global agency leader. So he knows exactly what it takes to build visibility and drive result in this new world that we're in. So Simon, Tom, thank you both. We're very lucky to have you with us today. Very quickly, before we dive in, a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to be together for the next 45 minutes. The session is being recorded, and we'll share it with you afterwards, together with a couple of helpful resources. So if you have any questions at any point, you can drop them in the chat. They'll come straight to me, and I will try and integrate them in our conversation, but still trying to keep the flow smooth if possible. But if we can't address them, we'll follow up with you with some thoughts afterwards. All right, so let's get started. As I mentioned, there's been a lot of hype recently about how generative AI is affecting us marketing people. I've read everything from, oh my God, it's going to take all our jobs away and make us completely irrelevant, to most lately, it's the best thing that's happened, and the PR industry is going through an amazing resurgence, and we're all going to be rich. So question to you guys, before we dive into this, what are some of the biggest myths and misconceptions that we need to clear up before we go any further in this discussion?
I love a good myth busting at the start of these sorts of conversations. And the first thing I want to raise here in the context of what we're talking about is around LLMs and AI and how it's influenced search marketing in general. So I think we've all heard the term SEO is dead. I don't agree with that term. I think that LLMs, they're not killing search marketing, they are shifting it, and they're changing the goalposts so that we have to adapt strategies to enable our brands to become more visible in the online space. So LLMs, they draw on authority signals from across the web. So brands with clear, credible coverage will still rise to the top, and LLMs are giving the brands the opportunity to do that. The second thing for me is GEO, which is generative engine optimization, and we'll cover what that term means in the next question, I think. But it's not a hack. It's not something that can be done quickly. It's not something that can be done like in the early days of SEO. It's all about aligning your brand with the sources that LLMs like ChatGPT trust, and that's third-party coverage, whether that be databases or structured profiles, etc. And that requires a considered strategy. It's not a quick win. And it's something that's being layered on top of the other traditional things that we've done.
You just got cut off for me, actually, Tom. Well,
High visibility is it's not automatic, and it's the result of sustained PR, credible signals, structured data, etc. And focusing purely on your website and your own channels won't cut it in this new world. In the world that we've been used to, where we've been optimizing our websites for SEO, LLM and AI visibility hinges on your wider footprint. So we need to start looking at wider channels and expanding our strategy on that front. Simon, I'm sure you've probably got something to say about this.
Yeah, I was going to just add weight to it. Like LLMs aren't neutral. I think they mirror what the web says about you, whether that's good or bad as well. Those models aren't discovering brands; they're kind of surfacing brands with them. Got well documented, credible information. So you said about it being a hack. It's literally going back to the SEO days when I started, which was quite a long time ago, 20 odd years ago. And when people are trying to manipulate, I don't think you can reverse engineer a model's behavior. So the weighting and the sources that the LLMs will refer to will shift. PR isn't being replaced, isn't replaced by AI. AI amplifies what PR produces. So I think there's quite a lot of myths, isn't there, at the moment, Tom? Like, it's just we're finding out new stuff all the time. So what we're telling you today, and we could probably tell you a whole load more different things tomorrow if we were doing this tomorrow.
That's for sure. So we've already started using some of the terms that we all see written about and spoken about, like geo and AO and entity optimization and signals and so forth. Can you just, before we dive in a little bit more, talk to us about the essential acronyms and the things that we really need to understand?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one. I know Simon's got an opinion on it, so I think I will probably just do the definitions, and then Simon can tell us what he really thinks about what those terms actually mean and whether they're valid or not. So, we've already used the term GEO, and GEO stands for generative engine optimization, and that's all about earning presence in AI-generated answers by building a strong entity footprint, and you do that across trusted, verifiable sources. So we're talking about entity signals. So that segues nicely into entity optimization. What is that? Well, that's actually been around for a long time. It's been a focus of SEO strategies for a long time. And what that means is just ensuring that your brand, your products, your people, they're clearly defined and they're consistently represented across the web. So that will help search engines and AI engines recognize you. They'll join the dots together properly, and then they'll feel confident in surfacing you because they can connect all of those entities together and know that they're related. So by focusing on entity optimization, it boosts SEO performance and it strengthens AI visibility, and it also supports PR impact as well, which we'll talk about a bit further along the line. AEO, so this can either mean AI engine optimization or answer engine optimization. There are different definitions to it. Some people see this as purely focusing on optimizing to appear in Google's AI overviews and search generative experiences. Some people say it's the same thing as GEO. Some people say it's a subset of GEO. So there's quite a lot of discussion around that. And then finally, SEO, well, I'm sure we've all heard of SEO, search engine optimization, improving your website's visibility in search engines. Traditionally, looking at keyword targeting and backlinks and the way that your website is technically built. More recently, really kind of shifting towards a content focus, quality content, and satisfying Google's EEAT framework, which is experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And I'm sure we could all see how PR related content could play a part in that. One thing I will say about SEO is I don't call it search engine optimization anymore. I call it search everywhere optimization, because Google and Bing and traditional search engines, they're not the only search engines out there. Any platform that you can search on that surfaces an answer related to your search, you can optimize against. So search everywhere optimization for me covers optimizing on social media platforms like TikTok or Instagram, and also across marketplaces like Amazon and eBay, etc. If you can search and you can serve a result and you can optimize for it, then it's SEO as far as I'm concerned. Over to you.
I don't know if I can deal with search everywhere optimization, Tom, to be honest.
I knew you'd have to say
I've already got enough acronyms, but like as Tom said, I'm not really a fan of the word geo. It just feels a bit like someone trying to invent like SEO for AI, but it seems like it has stuck. Seems like I'm seeing more and more people using geo. So the useful way I think about it is that SEO was always about, well, mainly always about your website. Whereas geo is your whole footprint across the web, especially the places where the AI models trust more than you. So this is just PR, SEO, and content, like all finally sort of meeting in the middle. I agree with that point on entity optimization, though, as well. I think that's like a really overlooked thing. You know, we're doing this with our clients as well, looking at like, because of the AI stuff and how it's servicing reviews and all that sort of stuff across the web. I think people have overlooked it. It's been one of those kind of like tracks, as business as usual tracks that sort of sat in the background. So the main thing is that the AI systems don't see the brands the way that we do. They see a set of facts, they see names, relationships, signals. If they're messy or inconsistent, then that's going to be surfaced in the LLM. So when they're clear and repeated across trusted trusted sources, sorry, you'll get surfaced more often. So that's my view. And I wish Geo hadn't stuck, but it has, unfortunately.
And that's the perfect segue to my next question, actually, Simon, is how, and as you know, how do these LLMs actually decide what to mention when they generate an answer? What signals or sources are they really pulling from?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to answer this question with any level of certainty. AI optimization is still sort of happening. We're still discovering it. It's like when I started in SEO 20 odd years ago, we were still trying to figure out what the key SEO things, and we've sort of learned them over the last sort of 20 years or so. We're still sort of learning, but like the way I'm thinking about it from a proper marketer's perspective is that the LLMs, the AI tools, they want certainty. So they're going to lean heavily on credible third-party sources, like B2B, it's trade press, review websites for maybe more B2C stuff. I think the earned media carries more weight than owned content as far as LLMs are concerned. It's about who's talking about you off your website. The models we're seeing in terms of what's been surfaced and the research that people have done, the models are prioritizing trusted fact-based sources over marketing copy. So we're seeing that where content is structured in a specific way, it tends to rank higher within the LLMs than opinion or like fluff, although there's still a lot of fluff in AI. So from a website perspective, there's different sides of it, but like it's looking at structured data very clearly. So like biographies, company profiles, product specs, award listings, like all of these things that are kind of essential anyway. They're just like good marketing things to do, like do it properly. You go back to Tom's point about it being a hack and about when I was saying about SEO in the bad old days when it could be manipulated. I think this is almost shift us back to doing good marketing again. Don't know what you think, Tom, but that's
I would 100% agree with that. And I've said it several times before in a couple of talks that I've done recently. We are seeing a shift back to the old marketing models that were actually forgotten about for quite a long time, because so many of us were chasing the performance marketing model, bottom of funnel, getting those results. Even if we did appreciate sort of brand marketing and moving up the funnel, clients didn't really want to pay for that because they didn't see instant results. So we're now kind of being forced out of that world where we've been focusing on instant performance results to building brands and therefore going up the funnel and relying on those traditional marketing models, which I think opens up a world of opportunity, and it's quite exciting really, because that's going to increase the sophistication of the marketing strategies that we're going to have to follow.
Yeah. That makes sense. So, you've already mentioned some of the types of sources that large language models tend to favor. I've read everything from, trade publications, and I've seen evidence of that, to product reviews or Reddit. So in reality, which sources in your experience really tend to influence large language model answers, and why is that?
Well, the worrying thing about 3 or 4 months ago, when Tom and I were kind of doing some training on this, was I think that the stats that were coming out was saying that the LLMs were surfacing Reddit and more worryingly Wikipedia, which is human edited. And it's been interesting to see what's happened with Reddit. There's been a real pile on with people kind of building Reddit strategies, and we need a Reddit strategy. We need to optimize our. The reality is that obviously I don't know what's going to happen, but Reddit's been a huge benefactor of how LLMs look for and source credible information, and it's been one of the heroes, the standouts really in the early days of responses to prompts and LLMs. I think it depends on the category. For consumer brands, the models are looking at where users are talking about products, reviews, comparison sites. So Reddit threads, are key there. For B2B and tech, as we were saying, it's like trade press again, like those credible sources. I think Reddit's influential now because models see it as authentic. It's recent, it's user generated as well. But the moment like another platform becomes more consistently reliable, there'll be a shift. So as has always been my rule in doing this for so long, there's no silver bullet, there's no magic bullet in marketing. So treating any single channel as the game changer, or unlocking AI is not it is really, really risky. It's the constant about across all of this is like credibility. So whether it's Reddit, a trade publication, product review site, it's just the models are looking at independent voices, factual clarity, consistency. So they build coverage in the places that people trust. I think if you again, it's gone back to the last point, like doing good marketing, like being talked about in those right spaces.
Yeah, and I'm interested in the kind of the reviews and sentiment side of things, particularly in the B2B space. I've looked at a lot of AI LLM answers and search results that are surfacing brands. And one of the things that I have noticed consistently in that space is that the brands that are surfacing towards the top are the ones that do have that elevated reputation. They do have the reviews. They do have the higher reviews on trusted review sites, etc. So working on that sentiment piece and ensuring that you have a review strategy in place, I think is super important across the board, not just in AI marketing, but also traditional SEO and other marketing channels as well.
Yeah, that's just a great point. How about manufacturers' own websites? Do they pull from that as well?
I imagine they can. I mean, there is increasing evidence to show that LLMs do pull from search results and from Google search results, for example, and from other websites. But as we said, this is such an evolving field. It's what, we could be having this conversation in 6 months, 12 months time, and we could be saying with more certainty and clarity, these are the levers that need to be pulled, or this is where LLMs get their answers from. It's fairly speculative at the moment, but it is a broad range of sources, and that credibility factor is absolutely key.
I think it's still key to say that a lot of those traditional SEO elements on site still exist, and they're still best practice. And a lot of stuff we're just talking about now is like how you're being talked about away from your website. So to your point, it's you still have to have a well optimized website that's structured in the right way so that crawler can read it and an AI bot can read it, but it's the stuff that is talked about off your website, which is the change, if you like.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Great. So, we've talked about, how PR and strong content and solid marketing strategies are helping AIs find the right kind of content. But I want to bring this down to earth a little bit and talk about more practical aspects, because, a lot of the people who are joining us today are responsible for running communications programs and managing PR and SEO and brand, and everything's moving at once. So let's talk about what this really means for how teams are working together, and how should marketing leaders align all the elements of their marketing strategy, their PR, their SEO, their content teams, so that they're all pulling in the right direction, not duplicating efforts, and most importantly, not missing the signals that influence AI visibility. Tom, do you want to start us on that one?
Absolutely. Yeah. Love this question because you know, I've always been a real advocate for cross-functional teams in marketing. You know, I've worked in several different within and with several different marketing agencies and teams over the years, and particularly in digital marketing agencies. And I know Simon will probably attest to this because we worked together in an agency a while ago. There was a tendency for teams who are specialists in particular channels or particular functions to be really very siloed, teams that should be talking to each other. But because of that kind of performance model, it was acceptable, and we could get away with those teams being siloed because everyone's focused on reporting from their own platforms, reporting performance of their own channels and the impact of that. And then there was often a layer on top that would pull that together and look at attribution and what have you. But those teams didn't interact, in my experience at least, as much as they should have done. And unfortunately, I still see that today, you know, in the marketing world. There are still teams that should be working together very, very closely on strategy on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis who aren't doing it. But I think in this age and this topic that we're talking about, which is the importance of PR in gaining visibility online, absolutely PR and SEO should be intertwined, but SEO and paid search should be intertwined. Social media should be intertwined with everything else. All of those things should be intertwined. But yeah, sort of aligning PR teams and SEO teams together on a more regular basis, as almost as a singular unit, is going to be really important for success. You know, historically, Simon, I know that you've worked on these types of projects. You know, big digital PR content projects were always a part of SEO, but you do something like that on a quarterly basis, where you might work with a digital PR separate team, or you might bring in another team from the agency or the broader marketing team you're working in to work on a project together, deliver that project, and then that's that project done, and then we monitor the results, but then we don't really kind of cross over strategy wise moving forward. That has to change. You know, there really does have to be that crossover on a much more regular basis.
One of the reasons I set up Curated and called it Curated was because of my frustration and that of about silos. Like going back, I mean, the way that we work as a business is that we work with clients, you know, marketing or business objectives. There has to be sort of an endpoint, and to my mind, the channels are largely insignificant. You know, what does it take to sort of get you there? And so the trap with this, I see, is like teams working in parallel instead of together. So like PR is telling one story, SEO might be chasing keywords, content's doing something else. So like AI systems don't separate that. The story is the same, you know, so they read the whole footprint and judge you whether the story matches across all of it. So there's never been a better time to bring, if you are all siloed at the moment, there's never been a better time to bring all of this sort of stuff together, you know. So so yeah, if your teams don't share facts and timing and story, if they do share, sorry, I mean, you're going to strengthen, you know, that entity, and if you don't, it's going to confuse the models, really. If you've got one marketing message over here and a different one over here, that's going to be very confusing for them to surface that when, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, consistency is the key, right? Consistency of storytelling. And, you know, as my old boss used to say, repetition builds reputation. So if you're ensuring that, you know, your campaigns are all coordinated and singing the same song, then you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So as I'm sure we've all gone into ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever and asked them what they know about us, right? So I asked my friendly neighborhood robot the other day what it knew about Véronique Froment. And I was actually surprised to see how detailed and accurate the response was. But what I thought was particularly interesting was that the answer was actually pulled from articles that recently appeared in industry press, Had links of the coverage about my previous company's acquisition by Bubble, recent articles that I wrote in the trade press. So it was great to see that, it actually was pulling exactly the kind of information that I'd want people to know about me. But the question is, what happens if you do a search about your brand and the LLMs are either not returning accurate information or they don't know anything? What can you do about that?
This is for me, this one. It's interesting. I watched a video by a fella called Rand Fishkin. He's a bit of a kind of a godfather of SEO. A video that he released last year, actually, end of last year, 5-minute video, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit because it was so simple, and he was trying to figure out why a specific brand, I can't remember, I think he was looking for a restaurant in Chicago or something like that. And he was trying to understand why that particular restaurant was featuring in a list of the recommended restaurants, or why it wasn't. I can't remember. And what he did, he just asked the LLM. He's like, why haven't you put that in there? Why are you ranking that number one? Why is this one number two? And you can actually ask the LLM why it's put it there. I actually had a client last year when I was asking, like, who are the best providers for the service that they provide, and they didn't appear. And I said, why aren't they in there? And the response came back saying they have got really, really low reviews. And I said, that's not true at all, because I can see that they've got really high reviews. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I only have information up until 2021. So I'm like, right, so you weren't going to tell me that then. Okay, fine. So, like, I think a lot of people do trust, maybe going back to the starting point again, the myth busting, that you assume that AI is going to give you the right answer. No, it isn't, and it can hallucinate as well. So yeah, I always ask the model where it got it from. It's usually pulling for something old, inconsistent. But I mean, the good news here is that you can ask the LLM where it got it from, and it'll tell you. Hopefully, if it doesn't lie to you. If the model returns nothing about you, that's not an AI failure. It's a visibility gap. It's somewhere where you need to optimize it. It means there's nothing credible or consistent enough out there for you to work with. So the LLMs are reflecting like the ecosystem around you. So, like, if it's wrong, fix the origin. If it's empty, build the footprint, if you like. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Tom.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think asking the LLM questions like that is it's surprising how many people don't do that.
Yeah.
You can ask it so many other things.
I think unless you'd seen that, I didn't know that. I think and then before I'd seen that video, I thought, oh my God, that's just such a painfully simple thing to do. And then I'd never thought to do it, because we'd never ask Google how it ranked, like, why is so-and-so ranked 6th on Google? You would never ask that, would you? Like, it's not something that you would do. Whereas with the LLMs, you can pretty much ask it anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then there are other targeted things that you can do. If you're seeing incorrect or false information coming through, for example, you can see where certain citations or sources have come from. So you can click on those sources and have a look to maybe fix those sources. And then, entity signals, again, we spoke about entities before, entity optimization, but you can hone in on things like that and make sure that your entity optimization is as good as it can be to help start improving those signals.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know personally that I'm really into measurement, and I think that pretty much every marketing professional feels that we need to measure the results of what we do. So what can we realistically measure today when it comes to AI visibility, and what can't we? What's possible today?
Measurement has always been a big thing for us as well. I know in your world of digital PR, you get asked that question, don't you? How do you measure it? And it's that kind of, there's lots of different things that you can measure. Like in mine and Tom's world, we can measure SEO keyword rankings, traffic, conversions, all of that sort of stuff. But the shift to AI is changing a lot of that. A lot of SEO visibility has been lost because AI is taking that away. You can type something into Google now and you'll get an AI overview and it will answer the question and there's nowhere to click. So how do you figure that out? The good news is that you can actually track quite a lot. There are lots of more tools. There are lots of tools coming out, and what I'd say about those tools is that they are going to get better and better, and hopefully cheaper, because some of the money I've seen advertising them is extortionate. But you can see where you're being cited, what sources the model is heavy lifting for your rep. You can also watch your own search demand, brand search demand, which is something you should be doing anyway. it's still a good signal that your visibility work is landing. Keyword rankings is something I've been measuring for like 20 odd years, and I'm still reporting them, but they are probably going to become less important or even redundant. I really don't know. Like when I started at Google, people were searching for single words, and then over time it's evolved into 2, 3, 4 word phrases. And now because of the LLMs, people are searching really long, complex, unique phrases, not just on the LLMs but on Google as well. So it's going to be really hard. And there's no doubt. And obviously we've relied on 20 years worth of data from Google that tells us what the most popular keywords are. We don't have any of that information from the LLMs yet. The cynic in me says that they will probably release that at some point and then build an advertising model off the back of it, and then the whole thing is just gonna start again. But like I would have thought that some guidance around like what people and I think ChatGPT and Claude, right? I think Tom have released a few white papers already, which has some basic information about what people are searching. They are holding onto this data. So yeah, the measurement is tough from an AI perspective. But yeah, just looking at some of those new tools that are coming out, a lot of the SEO monitoring tools that are offering AI visibility monitoring as well, and looking at where you're being cited, is probably going to be the shift. So the shift is going to move like from rankings to mentions, I'd say. I don't know what you think, Tom.
Yeah, I mean it's tricky, isn't it? It's early days. As you say, it seems like a lot of the sort of traditional digital marketing measurement platforms are racing to catch up with each other in offering AI visibility measurement. You mentioned SEMrush, I know that's one of them, but there are loads of others. And yeah, I think that's just going to develop over time. But really zooming out a little bit, it kind of feeds into the conversation around attribution and how difficult in general it
That's
is.
difficult. That's always been difficult anyway, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's been difficult enough anyway, and now in the world of AI and also privacy, and the impact that's having, it's getting more difficult. So measurement is becoming more challenging, and that's why in general, things like marketing mix modeling is a good option for bigger brands with lots of data, albeit over a sort of 1 to 2 year period, could use to get a true idea of multi-channel attribution across different channels, but it's not appropriate for every brand. So yeah, I think it's a case of watch this space for sort of AI specific visibility.
The moment for me, it's a bit of a mix of like coming out the old SEO stuff, the stuff that I've always been measuring. There's some of that, and then there's some of the new stuff as well, which is tracking the citations and understanding what prompts people are typing in. So it's a bit of a mishmash at the moment for me.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked about the theory, we've talked about what goes on under the hood. Now let's just talk about how we think that companies need to adapt their PR, their content strategy, for the LLM era that we find ourselves in. So, given how much large language models rely on trusted sources, what does in your mind, what does good PR look like, and what should PR teams rethink or keep on doing that they were already doing before?
Well,
I'll take this one.
yeah, I'd be interested to hear your opinion on this as well, Vera, as a PR expert. But yeah, I think focusing on credibility over volume is one of the big shifts that we're seeing. Again, I keep harking back to the era of performance marketing, and that is an era that I got kind of almost grew up in my career as a digital marketer, and it's actually refreshing to see that we're now coming out of that. So credibility over volume, having strong placements versus a flood of weak placements and mass content that goes out, which is kind of a fairly old school tactic anyway. But yeah, focusing on that quality, credibility, prioritizing fact-rich storytelling and verifiable detail. I think that's really important, and that in itself kind of matches up with search best practice, EEAT, if you think about, expertise, authority, experience, and trust, the two are very, very closely aligned. So making sure that your content is it tells a story and it is full of actual, proven data and verifiable facts.
Yeah.
And finally, you know, I'm no real expert at this, but I'm sure most PR people would say that they do this already. But you know, treating journalists as strategic partners, I think is going to be really, really important. You know, and understanding just how important those journalist partners are to underpin that AI visibility strategy. You know, they're almost assuming a new role there. So, you know, how PR professionals approach journalists, I think, is probably going to shift a bit because of that.
Yeah, you make some really valid points here that I 100% agree with. I think for me, it's, you know, the one of the battles that I've been fighting for the last 25 plus years is encouraging my clients to speak like human beings, right? Today, it's even more important than it's ever been, because this is how human beings search. They use the words that feel natural to them. And so if they want the LLMs to find that content, they need to create content that speaks like a normal human being, right? So I think genuine, approachable, useful content that teaches you something that you really want to find out about. So I think that's essential. And then, you know, tell stories that matter, right? Not stories that are about you, the manufacturer, but stories that are about your clients, your customers. How do you solve their pain points? And the other point you made, Tom, that I thought was really important too, is, you know, treating journalists and publications like trusted partners. I think now that we truly, again, understand the role that they play, we need to make sure that these people keep the lights on, right? So we need to feed them. We need to make sure that we commercially engage with them so they can carry on producing the really valuable content that we need them to produce. So anyway, I like that. Simon, I'm sure you've got some stuff to add to that one too.
I just think I just summarize it, but like it's basically everything you just said already. But like good PR for me now looks identical to like what Google used to reward it in its best years. So like clear facts, real expertise, verifiable stories, no fluff. I don't know if it's right to say like marketing, not manipulation. I always see like, you know, the bad old days of SEO as manipulation, and a lot of people are looking at geo, which I hate the name of, as like how do we play the system, if you like. I'd rather just get back to good marketing, and I think this is another way of pushing us good marketing, really.
For sure. So the next question is for brands who are working with agencies or evaluating partners, you know, whether they're SEO, GEO, PR partners. What kind of questions should they be asking to know if, you know, the agency that they're talking to really understands AI search and how they can help them support a AI-based strategy?
Yeah, for me, you know, anyone who purports to be an expert in AI-driven search or anything to do with AI and marketing really has to have a fundamental understanding of the technicalities behind how the platforms work. I do believe it's really important because, you know, we can talk about the stuff around, yes, we understand that we've got to build citations, we've got to build reputation, we've got to build credibility, and it's through third-party content and brand building. But actually, you know, what are the mechanics behind that, and how do these systems actually work to then understand the strategy to achieve that? So, you know, the fundamentals of how an LLM works, you know, like encoding text into high dimensional vectors, you know, focusing on the relevant parts of that input, and then enabling contextually accurate responses. You know, that's how an LLM actually deals with your query and then outputs its output that you read. So vector databases, etc. I do think it's important to have a fundamental grounding in the technicalities behind how the technology works. And then I would always ask the question, going back to what we were talking about a minute ago, around, you know, how do you track LLM citations and AI-driven visibility? What's your method of doing it? Because there is no standard method at the moment. There are loads of different tools out there. I know Simon and his agency use a very specific tool in their suite to do that, which isn't one of the tools that costs thousands of pounds a month to use, and probably gives you the same types of insights, if not better, than the ones that do cost you thousands of pounds. So, you know, what's the measurement strategy and the tracking strategy, and then finally, for me, you know, ask them what trusted sources influence visibility in your specific category. You know, show evidence of having worked in your category and understanding how AI search works in that specific sector. And if they can show examples of strategies for visibility and authority across the relevant platforms that they've worked on before, for me, those are all very, very key questions to get sort of underneath the surface.
Yeah, just ask them to explain, like, how they understand that LLMs are choosing what to surface and hear what they say. I mean, I think a lot of it is speculation, assumption, and conjecture. There's some things we know already, but there's some things that are just like we don't know. We make the assumption because we've seen them, but just hear what they say back. And if they're giving buzzwords, then it might be that they're making it up. I don't know, but yeah, can they explain the mechanics? Can they show examples? Yeah, just all the stuff that Tom said, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. So as we've all said, things are moving fast, and what's true today probably won't be true in the next few months. But before we wrap up, as I know everybody's on a tight schedule today, let's just think about what we expect the next year to bring to us. Time to bring out the crystal ball now and make some predictions for 2026. So what should marketing teams prepare for, as we all get into planning mode for 2026?
For me, it's definitely going to be around this, AI-driven visibility, GEO, AEO, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's definitely going to shift from being experimental, because it is quite experimental right now. Not enough brands are actually picking it up and injecting it into their general strategy. It's going to form a core part of marketing strategies and marketing budgets, I think. So the expertise required to do that is going to be needed. And then a second point from me, I think AI overviews are going to become more standard in Google. We're already seeing that kind of accelerate the number of search queries that are actually now resulting in an AI overview. So SEO needs to adapt to that, and then SEO strategy will become even more aligned with what we're doing to influence visibility in AI, and then the role of PR comes into that even more strongly. So yeah, couple of areas there.
Yeah, I just think it becomes another, not a channel, because it's not a channel, but like part of it. Like, it's another thing that we think about. When we work with clients, we tend to work across the whole digital spectrum. So paid, social, content, SEO, AI becomes part of it as well. I think there is something in what Tom mentioned earlier on about entity optimization. I think that needs to be a key thing. A lot of spring cleaning, I'd say, around brand messaging, and where brand is featured, looking at backlinks, looking at where you're featured on review sites, websites, auditing all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The models are going to shift quite fast. Whether it's ChatGPT is going to be citing Reddit all of next year, I don't think so, but I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what will come next? Maybe it'll start surfacing loads of stuff from other old websites. Who knows? But yeah, all the sort of stuff that Tom was saying.
Yeah, we need to keep on top of it. As we wrap up, I've got a couple of questions from our attendees here. So I'm going to read the question from Jillian here. She said, do you need a paid AI membership to ask these more complicated questions? I.e., why doesn't my brand information show up? Or do the free versions serve the same information?
As far as I know, the free ones will give you the same information.
Okay, great.
Tom?
And then a quick follow-up question too. If you're writing content, is it important to byline the article by a person within your brand or organization, or keep it general and vague by, brand?
I'd say more information is better. Tom, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, that ties into kind of best practice that we were talking about before. Yeah, more information, better.
Great. Good. So I'm conscious of time. We've got just a few seconds left. So I want to wrap up here. Simon, Tom, thank you both so much. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. You guys have taught me and my colleagues so much over the last few weeks. And I look forward to learning alongside you as we continue in this really interesting journey. And for everyone who joined us today, thank you. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. As I mentioned at the beginning, we will send out the recording along with some other resources that we mentioned that you might find useful. And then if you have any further questions, then feel free to put them in the chat here. We will address them as soon as possible. I've just got one more coming in, sorry. Miguel says, does Substack count as a trusted site?
I would say so, yeah.
It's in,
I've not seen
in that
many
area.
citations from it yet, but I would say so. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, it's definitely in that area, isn't it? Yeah.
I'd say it's a good, yeah, something like that, or Medium, or one of those kind of publisher websites. Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you very much. We'll be back in touch with all of you who were able to register and attend, and we'll send you the recording and some additional bits and pieces. So thank you again, everybody. Really enjoyed this conversation.